Radio. Your favorite program is back, and this is SDG and You program. Today, we delve into a critical issue that affects us all, and we're talking about the state of our planet as we confront the challenges of climate change. Sustainable Development Goal number 13, which is climate action, stands out as a beacon of hope and action. This goal urges nations to take immediate action to reduce greenhouse gas emission and build resilience against the effects of climate change. My guest on today's program is Mr. Twambo Mutinta, MP, Iteji constituency, and he is co-chairperson of the Zambia Parliamentary Caucus on Environment and Climate Change, ZPCECC. Mr. Mutinta, thank you so much and for joining us on Parliament Radio and Parliament Television.
Well, thank you so much. Good morning, and good morning all the listeners out there.
How is Iteji?
Well,
the animal-human conflict.
We were just coming back from it as a caucus. We went 16 of us just to go and appreciate the same issues that we are conversating today.
Okay.
We went to appreciate the investment of the African parks in the Kafue National Park. We also went to appreciate the extent of deforestation, which is the main issue, not only in Itestezi, but it's rampant in Itestezi, but across the country.
Okay.
And also went to appreciate generally how issues around animal-human conflict, they are affecting our people,
okay, as
we look for collective solutions on how we can ensure that the animals and the people and the environment, they all coexist, so that we achieve
let's not preempt the program.
Sure.
This looks to be a very interesting subject because you're passionate about issues to do with the environment. And also joining us this morning, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Imanga Wamunyima, MP for Nalolo constituency, and he's also executive member of the same caucus. Thank you so much. How is Nalolo?
Nalolo is okay. Of course, we've not been spared with the effects of climate change. But overall, we are okay.
Okay. All right. We also have our cooperating partners joining us, and this is an agency that is falling under the United Nations, and it is the United Nations Development Program, and she is coming in the capacity of specialist, program specialist, environment and energy, and she is Mrs. Carol Zulu. It's the second time you're appearing on this platform.
Yes,
how was the first experience?
It was good, and like I discussed last time, issues of SDGs are interlinked, so you can't speak of one SDG on its own, you know. So the water one that we discussed last time is very close to the SDG we are discussing today.
All right, so that's my panel for this morning, and you can also be part and parcel of today's program by sending in those text messages. We'll be able to read out your text messages. The number that we are using is 0978 772801. That's 0978 772801. My sign language interpreter for today is Jason Manda, and I'm your presenter, Paul Sentendovi. So today we're looking at a very critical topic, which is climate action. Maybe we can start with Mrs. Zulu. You coming from UNDP. What does your job entail, being specialist environment and energy?
So from the United Nations Development Program, UNDP in short, our role as an organization ideally is working with government. So within the country, we work with government of Zambia, the ministry responsible for climate change, environmental issues, but we also coordinate with other cooperating partners. We know that we can't do this work alone. It's an immense undertaking to address climate change and to support government. So we also collaborate with other fellow cooperating partners. We also support private sector, civil society organizations. So in general, our role and my specific role is coordination and engagement with stakeholders in the country to support efforts driven towards climate change actions.
Before I bring in the two honorable members that we have, maybe you can begin by just letting us know, and the viewer and the listener out there, what this goal is all about, goal number 13, which is climate action, and how is it affecting our country, Zambia?
Yeah. So SDG, or Sustainable Development Goal number 13, it's one of the goals that the international community has agreed on to be achieved by 2030. And we know that we are only a few years to go before we can take stock of where the global community is to achieving this goal. SDG 13 in particular is about taking action on climate change, addressing greenhouse gas emissions, and also building resilience. When you look at climate change, it's a two-sided coin. So there's an aspect of greenhouse gas emissions which has been creating the global warming effect. When we see rising temperatures, increasing water levels, ocean rises and so on, that is coming from a mitigation effect because we have too much greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. But then arising from that, countries are facing these effects. We've only been talking about the floods. We are currently going through quite a dry period when we should have been expecting a full-scale rainy season. Those are issues where now countries need to take adaptation actions. So the mitigation part is mainly to address the causes of climate change, and adaptation is about cushioning people on the current effects of climate change. So this is what the SDG is all about, and the United Nations has called upon all the countries to take actions. And so as UNDP, our preoccupation remains now to look at what has the country prioritized on climate change in terms of legal frameworks, strategic actions, and our role then is now to look at what support can we provide for the country to attain those ambitions.
Okay, Ms. Mtenta, you are co-chairperson of a very critical caucus, which is the Zambian Parliamentary Caucus on Environment and Climate Change. Just briefly tell us what this caucus is all about.
Well, thank you so much. The Zambian Parliamentary Caucus on Climate and Environment is an establishment of members of parliament within the Zambian parliament who've got the passion to see that our environment is safeguarded, and we also contribute meaningfully to some of these goals, like the goal that talks about climate action. As you may be aware, we are the representatives of the people. And when we're talking about the effects of climate change, they happen right on our doorsteps, and they affect the people that we represent. So it was against that background where this caucus was established. This is a voluntary, non-political grouping within Parliament, supported by Madam Speaker in its operations through our desk office, but we operate as a voluntary grouping. Our main objective generally is to influence policy. Most of the issues that my colleague did mention, the executive, it ensures that the SDG 13 is implemented, but our job as a caucus, we are more like providing oversight. Our job as a caucus, as members of parliament who come from the constituencies where the effects of climate change is felt, what we do is to ensure that we influence policy, and we also ensure that the legislation that comes on the floor of the House, it is contributing towards environmental conservation, and we also see to it that the laws that come into Parliament, they are also friendly to the environment. So we provide the general oversight in wanting to see that our country is on track in terms of national commitments around climate change, and also across the country, across Africa and across the world, there is a full realization that members of Parliament, they've been passive in this agenda. Meanwhile, the members of Parliament are at the center of this conversation. So as a caucus, I think we've heightened our gears. We have become so much involved in wanting to see what our government is doing, wanting to work very close with our cooperative partners. And in order to be very focused, we have also come up with a strategic plan that is running up to about 2027. That is trying to give us clear direction in terms of how we need to work as a caucus, so that we together support our executive, we together coordinate with other developmental partners, and ensure that some of these goals, like the one we are discussing today, SDG number 13, we ensure that we achieve it. Like my colleague did mention, we have very limited time before 2030. Yes.
But how does it make you feel having the Speaker who's passionate about planting trees. We've seen her going around in various constituencies, encouraging members of parliament to plant trees at their various constituency offices.
Yeah, that's a very important question. I think for us as a caucus, we're excited. First of all, we have a speaker that is passionate about this agenda. And for the first time, the caucus has facilitated that the speaker should even attend the COP in Dubai. I think this excites us because we now know that there's political will, even from Parliament, and most of the activities which the caucus has been working on, they've been fully supported by Parliament. And we strongly believe that with this kind of support, the caucus will grow big, the caucus will be more meaningful, and the coordination between government, the caucus, and the governmental partners with the support that we are getting from the speaker, I think we'll be able to achieve greater goals. But as I conclude, just a quick one, this goal, it's a goal of action.
Okay.
And we're not talking about action.
We'll get into those actions.
Okay,
we still have about 45 minutes to go, so we still have plenty of time. Mr. Imanga, coming from Nalolo, and you are executive member of a very critical caucus here at Parliament that looks at environment. And Mr. Mutenta here did talk about policy, legislation as well. Maybe the question would be, what are some of the specific policies or legislation as your caucus champion or supported to address climate change and achieve SDG 13?
Well, as you may be aware, Posen, that the caucus has been in existence for some time, and previously, before we rebranded it to ZPCEEC, it was the Conservation Caucus. And you will note that they played a role in amendments to the Forest Act of 2015. The caucus did play a role, and also on the environmental policies that government has been, stating as policy. Currently, the caucus has been working with the Ministry of Green Economy and various stakeholders. Well, just to mention a few, there's ICCF, International Conservation Caucus Foundation, WWF, to expedite the enactment of the climate bill. You see, the issues of climate change usually need to be practical. So you would wish to know that I think somewhere in 2015, 196 heads of states gathered in France, Paris, and came up with what they call the Paris Agreement, which should give practical steps to addressing climate change. And in Zambia, up to date, the Paris Agreement has not been domesticated. And that domestication is what we're trying to achieve through the climate bill. And we're happy to say that through our advocacy and engagement with the Ministry of Green Economy, the climate bill is now at justice and should come to the House. So there are some tangible achievements that the caucus can point at with its continuous engagement.
A person who's watching and listening from Nalolo may not understand what we're discussing. How can you simplify goal number 13, relating it to your constituency, at constituency level?
Well, you see, that's a good question. And just to start with deforestation, goal number 13 on climate change, seeks to end activities that are destructive on the environment and climate. For example, deforestation, cutting down of trees, and this is an issue I think that is rampant in my constituency. And of course, the tree planting program couldn't come at a better time. So to break it in simple terms, I wish I could do it in laws, but but it's all about those activities that are destructive. For example, unnecessary burning of forests. We have also unconventional fishing practices, and this is also an issue we're trying to address, POSET, where the Ministry of Health gives health post mosquito nets. The mosquito nets are used for fishing in the Zambezi River, and these are some of the issues that we're saying. Such practices of using treated mosquito nets, which will end up they'll be destructive to the waters, because that chemical that is treated affects the ecosystem. So it includes a number of various issues where, for example, deliberate aggression towards animals. Because as you may remember, Nalolo is that constituency where you can have 700 heads of elephants from Sioma just come, terrorize, they eat the maize of, of the people and they go back. So it's activities that would encourage sustainability of the environment.
Ms. Zulu, we've heard what the members of parliament are up to in terms of responding to Go number 13. But from UNDP, what are some of the projects that you've embarked on that will speak to Go number 13?
No, I think in terms of UNDP footprint on addressing generally environmental issues in the country and climate change in particular, can be traced back to years even before the inception or coming on board of the Paris Agreement, in the sense that around 2010 thereabout, UNDP already had anticipated that the country needed a permanent institutional arrangement for the country to coordinate efforts of various partners on climate change. And as way back as 2010, UNDP already supported the government with putting in place what was more of a temporal or interim arrangement of climate coordination. But then going forward, knowing that government has taken on board, now we have in the country the Climate Change Department fully fledged. The program or the agency UNDP now is focusing on looking at on-the-ground interventions that address both adaptation and mitigation. And I can speak at the moment to ongoing projects. We have a project that is addressing strengthening climate resilience in agriculture and livelihoods. It's abbreviated as SCRALA, and it's operating in about 5 provinces across 16 districts of the country, looking at the most vulnerable areas that are faced with extreme climate conditions. Alongside that, UNDP is also working with the Global Environment Facility to implement the Small Grants Program. This is a program which provides grants to beneficiaries to the maximum of $50,000 US, and if you imagine at community level, if a cooperative or a community accesses that kind of money for their adaptation activities, it takes the livelihoods a step further. So those are some of the actions that UNDP is supporting on the ground. But also speaking to the Honorable for Nalolo on the issue of deforestation, UNDP has now established experience with addressing the vice of deforestation through a project that was implemented in Central Province called Assisted Natural Regeneration, where communities were supported with alternative livelihoods to allow the forest to regenerate naturally without having to do tree planting and so on. So what the project was doing was to ensure that communities had capacity to undertake law enforcement in terms of patrolling, sensitization around wildfires, and also just mobilizing themselves to invest in alternative livelihoods. So this is a project where communities, instead of cutting trees for charcoal, they were educated or trained in producing briquettes using agriculture residue. So they used the leftovers from agriculture fields and they were producing briquettes which were substituting charcoal. So the experiences are already there from what UNDP has actually supported, and I think it's a matter of scaling up some of these interventions that we are now preoccupied with.
This is SDG and your program, and today we're looking at Sustainable Development Goal number 13, which is climate action. And if you want to be part and parcel of the program, feel free to send us your question, your contribution on 0978772801. Better still, you can also like our Facebook page, the National Assembly of Zambia, and let us know where you are watching us from. I should also make mention that this goal has 9 targets, and we'll be trying by all means to look at some of the targets. And we did extend an invitation to the Minister of Green Economy, but unfortunately couldn't get the Minister to be with us. He is committed, so we should make mention that. Mr. Mtenta, being a chairperson, I want you to look at target 1 of the 9 that are under this goal. I'll read it. And this goal, under number 13, aims at strengthening resilience and adaptive capacity to climate-related hazards and natural disasters in all countries. Now, how can the caucus respond to this target? That's target 1.
Well, thank you so much. I think that is one of the critical targets, because as we try to mitigate climate change, we need to be championing the conversation of resilience. And we need the country to be resilient to most of these climate shocks. And I think one of the challenges we've been facing in our country is our inability to be resilient enough. Because you see, we cannot completely do away with climate shocks. Maybe we might not do it at this moment, but what we need is to, at this moment, come up with policies, come up with legislation that embeds aspect of resilience. So what we are also doing as a caucus in our advocacy, in our engagement with the ministry, in our engagements with the development partners, is to want to see that the laws that are coming forth. I'll give you an example: the climate change bill. Our job would be to scrutinize it further, to see to what point is the climate change bill that is coming on the floor is demonstrating some levels of resilience. Okay. Basically, that is what our job is as a caucus, because we strongly feel that our community members, they also need to have skills on how they can be resilient to the climate shocks. And it is from that background that also our caucus is working with WWF. WWF is implementing a project, including in my constituency in United States, called Voices for Climate Action. And what this project is also trying to do is also embedding a mindset in our community members, a mindset in our chiefs, a mindset in the learners in the schools, starting to develop some skills, develop some habits that would also enable our community members to be able to be resilient to the climate change agenda. There are a lot of challenges, like you had asked on Bonalolo, that are more practical. Issues around charcoal burning that happen in our constituency. How do we ensure that we're able to mitigate them in a more sustainable manner, but ensuring that there's a win-win situation? Our community members, they continue with their life, they continue with their agriculture, but the agriculture that they apply, it should be one that is not destructive, but it's the one that should be building their ability to be resilient to the climatic conditions that we are now facing. All right.
Honorable Imanga, would you want to respond to target 13.1?
No, I think he's adequately responded to it. Basically, I think, you see, as a caucus, it's also about, it's a voluntary team of parliamentarians. Okay. So much of our engagement is also limited to how stakeholders respond to activities, because we have a strategic plan which would include facilitating us to provide awareness with our electorates. Okay. So I think he's adequately addressed it.
Away from the caucus, as a member of parliament, would you say that the increase in CDF is a game changer when responding to this target?
Well, yes and no. Yes, in the sense that we now have enough resources to find a way of having our people move away from the destructive practices. No, in the sense that there is no deliberate allocation in the guidelines for the environment. And I feel that this is an honest conversation that we are, as a caucus, we are prioritizing to engage. Because obviously, CDF has, the expenditure on CDF is not cast in concrete. It has been split with percentages and priorities. So it's a
but I think, don't you think local people through the WDCs can make recommendation, and a certain portion can be channeled to respond to target 13.1?
You make a very good observation, Posent, and that is what that's one of the problems we have. Your question actually points to a problem, that the conversation on climate change and environment has not been taken seriously to the WDC level. And that is why this caucus wants to amplify this conversation. It's just not only to the caucus, even to the general population. How many people, even the elite, the educated, would you find discussing issues to do with climate? So at WDC level, it's only now that through our engagement in community meetings that they're beginning to build awareness. So this issue of climate, in fact, there was a recent survey which was supported by the Scottish National Party in conjunction with our caucus, where the results showed that the general population is either mostly disinterested in issues to do with climate and environment. But so the caucus really is trying to decentralize not only how can I put it? It's not only the decentralization of resources at parliamentary and executive level. Even the message needs to be decentralized, to that level.
All right.
But maybe before
yes.
she comes, I would also want to add that also what we are doing as a caucus on adaptation. You are aware that the conversation of adaptation is not mainly discussed at local level. So we are building this conversation also at community level. Some of the initiatives that are coming from our cooperative partners, how do we ensure that some of these, we help our communities to gather their insights, and also ensure that in the manner we are building resilience, we bring in community voices. Because we've seen some of the initiatives that have disconnected the community members in the process of building resilience in our community. So we are providing this oversight. That's at community level. Then also I want to mention that the adaptation fund, it's a discussion which is also being discussed at global level. And our caucus is a member of the African Parliamentary Network on Climate Change, where Zambia is also, where parliamentarians have also gathered, where we're also coming to provide oversight on what our governments are discussing in terms of the adaptation fund. You are aware that a lot of countries, they've made pledges on adaptation, but most of these monies have not been actualized. So even at regional level, at international level, as a caucus, we are part of those bigger networks where we're also providing accountability and wanting to see that the adaptation fund, like at country level, how much of the adaptation fund have we received? You discover that Zambia gets the smallest share if you compare with other countries in the region. So meanwhile, the effects of climate change in our country is also very huge. So these are some of the discussions that even as we go to the COP, this is a discussion that members of parliament across Africa, there will be a session for members of parliament, and the conversation around adaptation is a discussion that will be there, because we strongly feel this discussion should be discussed at local level and also at that other level.
All right. I know I'll get back to you. Ms. Zulu, the meager allocation in the 2024 national budget, stand to be correct, it should be 0.8 or 8%. How does that make you feel as a cooperating partner? You are championing this agenda, but there isn't much that is coming in terms of resources allocated to that sector.
It's a very difficult question you keep asking me when it comes to SDGs and implementation at country level. And I think, like last time I had indicated that we look at the country capacity. So it will look meager, but we understand that that is the capacity of government to meet the demands of the sector. But of course, that poses a challenge to us as cooperating partners when we identify to say the capacity of government can only go so far. And so what should we be doing as partners in development to meet the needs that are immense beyond the allocation in the budget? And this is where we come in to provide both financial and technical assistance to government to look at what are the priorities that have been set by various sectors to address climate change and environmental issues in general. And we look at efforts on resource mobilization. We are in the process at the moment. We've been engaging the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment aggressively to understand what their priorities are beyond now towards the national determined contribution, and look at where can we tap into international resources by developing projects that can meet the deficit in the financing needs.
Mr. Manga, you're debating the budget, the 2024 national budget. I'll pose a similar question, the one I posed UNDP. How does that make you feel? You're in this caucus and you're approving resources that you even know that if it was at this level, things would have moved.
Well, it's funny you ask, because yesterday we debated
that head.
Yeah, yes. That head. And for me, I think in no uncertain terms, the allocation is low, too low for a new ministry. What comforts us is that there is an improvement from the previous, from 0.6 of the budget to 0.8. But some issues that I raised in my debate is that you know, part of the commitments of the Paris Agreement is for developed countries to help developing countries to address climate challenges. However, that cannot be really realized if they do not see full commitment. So if you cannot put much of the resources, obviously it becomes so. It's something that we're strongly advocating, that the budget allocation must increase. And also part of the issues I also raised is that when the climate bill is enacted, we should have a climate fund, so that heavy reliance on treasury reduces. A climate fund where activities of fundraising can have more like a fund. And also the carbon tax percent. I do not really support taxation in one basket, even on climate issues. So you know, Zambia has carbon tax, and all this money goes to Control 99. And from there, once it's in Control 99, it's used for anything. So there are deliberate steps being made. So part of the advocacy is that the carbon tax must go in a separate fund that is dedicated to address climate issues. And the collaboration between DMMU and the Ministry of Green Economy must be hyped up, because destruction is like fire and so forth. The first call of action in the constituencies, they just think DMMU, you know what I mean? And so the climate experts and environmental experts sit at Green Economy. So if they do not build up resources in their fund, and that is why we've been pushing for the climate bill to be enacted, because even issues to do with carbon trading, or proper guidelines enacted in law, because the challenge with having just guidelines is enforcement. So all these need to be capped in an act of parliament. So for me, the budget allocation needs to increase, and will continue. That's why the caucus is there. Okay. We even urge the minister, we're happy to urge for a supplementary budget. Because remember, we've not been spared with climate change. And just to relate it to your question in a few words, your earlier question on those other issues, is that, for example, to build resilience, we still have grass structures, you know, in these areas. And so part of the other issue is to do an overhaul of pole and mud structures in this, because those are vulnerable to fires, vulnerable to, and also to build capacity with our people, so that we can end this situation where some of these structures that are taken off blown off by wind. So in summary, that's my contribution.
All right,
with regards to your question.
Honorable Mutinta, would you want to comment on the budget allocation?
Yeah.
Do you think that meager will work against the achieving of goal number 13?
Yeah, thank you so much. This is a very important question, and I also had an opportunity yesterday to debate on this important head number 53. You see, when we're talking about adaptation and resilience, it starts from our investment in some of the areas that we feel this ministry could have been allocated a little bit more. If you look at if you look at the entire budget, I think this ministry got the least in terms of allocation. So yes, we are saying there's a positive drive from the 0.6 to about 8. Yes, there's something happening, but we felt, looking at the urgency, all the successes that we are investing, we might invest all our CDF today, but all the buildings will be blown off. Then what would be the point of doing all this investment? We could invest our FISIP, which is now benefiting over 1 million. We could plant all our maize and apply all our fertilizer. but we have no rains. So I strongly feel this ministry needs the support. So the budget allocation, to be honest, as a caucus, we are not comfortable with that, what has been allocated. We strongly felt we needed money to strengthen ZEMA. We need a lot of compliance, and we needed ZEMA to have inspectors across the country, because this is the resilience we're talking about. This is the adaptation we're talking about. We needed these forest guards. You know, government is recruiting the customs guards, to monitor the immigration guards. We needed the forest guards. We only have about 99 forest guards. We need about 2,300 forest guards. If you come to it, sir, you see the illegal logging with the introduction of localization of desks manufacturing. My constituency is being deforested day and night. Everyone is logging to make desks, and we need this inspection to be happening in all the districts. So these are the monies that we thought, if we invest in these critical sectors. The forest department, they've never done a forest inventory. We don't know how many trees we have. That's a routine exercise that should be taking place annually. You need to know how many trees you have. You are aware that this country loses about 300,000 hectares of forest annually.
Yes, annually, yeah.
And just in my constituency, the amount of deforestation that has taken place is more than twice Lusaka in a space of 1 year. The amount of so if we want to build the resilience, if we want to build the if we want to mitigate, we need to invest in this ministry. And I strongly feel the message was very clear yesterday, and we will not depend on development partners for this budget. And moreover, this same ministry, over 60% of this budget is coming from the project, like she mentioned. Is it Skrara?
Yeah.
Skrara. That is what is moving the ministry. Money is coming from development, but I think we need to own the ministry and start investing in this ministry.
All right.
Yes.
Ms. Zulu, you'd want to comment?
Yes, really appreciating the feedback and the support that the honorable members are putting in debating the budget, and just highlighting the financing gap from domestic resources. Acknowledging that background, I think we also need to encourage, and this is the conversation we regularly have with our government colleagues, that beyond focus on funding for the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment, we should be striving at mainstreaming climate change across all the sectors. What that will mean is that we will look at the allocation to the Ministry of Green Economy, but if Ministry of Energy, Agriculture, Water, they all have climate change interventions, that will be a bigger portion of resource allocation from Treasury to the various sectors. So the issue of mainstreaming adaptation in our operational budgets and also plans in all the sectors becomes very critical, and I acknowledge the government's efforts recently. They launched the National Adaptation Plan, which is meant to support integration of adaptation measures in planning processes and budgeting. So what that means is that instead of relying on external resources, and rather than relying on Ministry of Green Economy, each sector is supposed to have climate actions that will be undertaken, and government will be allocating the little resources that can be found, but at least we would know that every sector is doing something.
Let's get to the screens and see who has sent what message. And the number that we're using is 0978-772801. You can also send in your text, and we'll be able to read it. And better still, you can also like our Facebook page, the National Assembly of Zambia, and let us know where you're watching us from. Let's check who has sent what message. Louis T. from Kitwe, enjoying the show and explanation from the panel. Thank you so much, Louis T. from Kitwe there. We still have 2 more text messages. Is there any money in the CDF allocated specifically for climate change related activities in the constituencies? Thank you so much. No name there. Let's see the last one, and this one is, my question goes to Mrs. Zulu. What is being done to involve children in climate change activities? They are the future to the MP. Shouldn't ZEMA be actively involved in changing those people who burn garbage, as people will know the right environmental practices? Thank you so much for those 3 text messages. Better still, keep sending those text messages. The number is 0978 772801, and I'll be able to acknowledge those of you that are following us on our Facebook page, the National Assembly of Zambia. Ms. Zulu, there was a question for you there. Maybe
Yes,
you can
I
respond
see.
before I get to the honorable members talking
Yes.
about burning of garbage as well.
That's very true. UNDP actually does place a lot of emphasis on involvement of young people, involvement of women and any other marginalized groups in society to be part of the policy processes, decision making on climate change, but more so to take action because we understand that yes, we are raising a future leadership, but already the effects of climate change are being felt now, and what we want to avoid is transferring a planet that is so ravaged by climate change to a future generation. So from UNDP side, we are involving the youth in the climate discourse, and I'm happy to mention that with the COP that Honorable mentioned about, that's going to take place in Dubai from 30th November to 12th December, UNDP is actually supporting young people to attend the Conference of Parties, and not just to go there to be part of the crowd. We've dedicated a panel discussion for the youth to air their voices around how can they play a role in the just transition. You know, there's the topic of transitioning from fossil fuels and just generally to cleaner development processes and pathways. And we have dedicated these young people to have a discussion alongside government officials to have an exchange of how they see the future from their standpoint. Other than that, UNDP just last week Friday was honoring a young-led organization called Young Emerging Farmers Initiative. This is an initiative that has actually been recognized by UNDP at global level, and they've been given what is called the Equator Prize Award, amounting to $15,000 US. What this group has been doing in the country is so immense. They've recruited over 500,000 young people to be involved in sustainable agriculture and other climate smart agriculture practices. They have planted over 6,000 trees. So these are issues that we see that we need to encourage and bring to the light. And so from the point of view of visibility and just promoting these young voices and what they are doing on the ground, UNDP provided a certificate of recognition to really appreciate and motivate other young people to take a similar action and just get on board and do what they can within their areas.
Before the two honorable members respond to some of the text messages that we read, let me also acknowledge Israel Kamba. You are joining us and you're saying thanks for the enlightenment, well said, and Monde Kasongo, you're just saying thank you and enjoying the program. Thank you so much, those of you that are with us on our Facebook platform there. Maybe Honorable Manga, you would want to respond, issue to do with garbage burning. How are you working with the local authority? There was a text message that came through.
Garbage burning?
Yes.
Well, I think I should also put it on record, just to inform the general public, is that in escalating our conversation with the executive, we will be having a policy coherence meeting, supported through the Global Environment Facility under ICCF. So this meeting will be on 4th December, Honorable Twamba, I should believe that. 4th December, isn't it? Now, part of the objects of this meeting is to have some sort of synergy with us, the caucus, and the executive. So we'll have technocrats from the Ministry of Green Economy, Forestry, and probably local government. So we are trying now to hype up that engagement. As you may be aware, Posent, is that recently the Lusaka City Council established a standalone company to address issues to do with garbage. Now, the country does not have a policy on the disposal of garbage. So, through the caucus, this is the engagement that the conversation we want to have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Honorable Mutinta, any response from the text messages that came through?
Yeah, I think I'm also passionate about children. And you are aware that there's also statistics that about 90% of the diseases who affect the children below the age of 5 by 2050 as a result of the climate crisis. And just to give an example, when the rain season starts in my constituency, like last year, I witnessed over 300 children. They couldn't go to the school because their streams were washed away. And when we were witnessing, when we went with the DMMU just to check on the disaster that happened along the Kafue River, Monze, Mazaboka, I went to one of the camps where we landed, and I saw the rural children, how helpless they were, and I could see elements of child safeguarding, abuse to the children as a result of the climate crisis. And I think this is a conversation that is not always spoken about, but the statistics will tell you that people have done studies, UNICEF and others, on how climate change, to a large extent, it disrupts children. This also includes their mental health and all the other facets of their upbringing. They are highly affected by climate, the climate crisis. And when we learn that we'll be having young people participating in the next COP, I think this is exciting. I would want to mention one thing which was sad, which happened in the last COP in Egypt, which I was privileged to attend. It was very sad that Zambia had the least number of children who attended in the climate spaces in Egypt. And I hope this time around we'll have a lot of our young people who will be ambassadors in the future of climate change. And I'm excited to learn that these young emerging, there are initiatives like the young emerging farmers. And there was, last month, there was a conference which was held by the young people just at Golden Peacock. And I know UNDP was part of the funders. But it's still a bit, I think we still need to do a lot more in bringing the young people closer to this conversation. Then there's a question on CDF from our colleague. Indeed, on CDF, there's a fund, there's a 5%, which is allocated towards disasters. But for me, I think I'm not comfortable to allocate an amount of money for disaster. We need to start using that money for prevention and mitigation. So what I've done in my constituency in instance, just to demonstrate political will, in the CDF technical committee that approves projects, we have put a young person to sit there so that the projects which are approved, they do not harm children. And again, in the same CDF technical committee, we have put a member of a project on climate change, VCA, to sit there. Because the guidelines are very clear. They just say you will nominate a technical committee. You will nominate from relevant community or the ministries. So we thought it was important that these people, they sit so that they check. People are getting grants to go in the burn fire, to go and do charcoal burning from the same CDF. And that is why the policy coherence comes through. Like, what is the Minister of Local Government talking about on climate change? What is the Minister of Department of National Parks talking about? And that is why the conversion of mainstreaming is coming. We are still disjointed as ministries. Someone wants to invest in a solar power, the just transition. Somebody wants to invest in solar energy. We're in a rush to transition. The other ministry will block the process that this is in a GMI. And they're not providing immediate feedback. So there's that policy coherence that we need to work on. So the CDF is there, but I feel the mainstreaming aspect, so that fund, people by now could have been trained on how to respond, how to report a disaster. So what we are doing with that money, we are just waiting to respond, which for me is not good enough. Then there was a ZEMA capacity, like I did mention. ZEMA only has about 99 inspectors. They need 2,300 inspectors across the country. So if we don't, I know the ZEMA Act, we supported in strengthening its board. As a caucus, we are also key in wanting that ZEMA is improved. We did that, but we still feel if we want to protect our environment, we need to invest a bit more in people that will ensure that there's compliance each district we need to know what is happening.
Okay.
Yes.
We should be getting to the screens and see some of the text messages that you've been sending. The number that we are using is 0978 2801. Better still, you can also like our Facebook page, the National Assembly of Zambia Facebook page, and let us know where you are watching us from. Now I'll get back to UNDP. Very interesting. Maybe how does your agency envision its role evolving in the broader global efforts to combat climate change?
Actually, with our role that we've been playing over time, the need for accelerated support to government becomes even greater because, like you've heard, we have a very short window within which to do so much.
Yeah, it is under 7 years.
Under 7 years. And what we are looking at is seeing how can we accelerate implementation of the plans that government have put in place. We acknowledge that from the international level, there's a move to have so many action plans developed, the national determined contribution. Zambia responded very quickly and has put that in place. The National Adaptation Plan, Zambia has responded. And what this is signaling to the cooperating partners is that the country is saying we are ready. And what they are looking for now are resources and human capacity to implement these. So we are envisioning ourselves taking up more space to ensure that within the space that we have and beyond the SDGs life, we continue to accelerate implementation of actions on the ground. And I think, as Honorable has indicated, we have so many policy frameworks already in place. I think what it requires is strengthening implementation to ensure that on the ground, where the effects of climate change are felt, we have interventions.
All right, let me acknowledge people that are following us on our Facebook page. We do have Bill Chelufia saying, great to see Honorable Twambo Mutinta speak to issues of environmental protection. We also have Nancy Wupe Mofia as well following us on our Facebook page. Let's get to the screen and see some of the text messages. Those of you that are sending those text messages and be able to read them. This one reads, this is an amazing initiative and job well done for enlightening us the important subject, which is climate change. Thank you so much. I would have loved if the name was there and know where you are getting us from. Rabo Real from Nalolo, a potential voter there, Honorable Imanga there. Watching the program and learning a lot. Keep it up. Thank you so much for those kudos. The other one comes from Davis. How often does the government take to audit the land in order to reduce the control of climate change? All right, so those are some of the text messages that people have been sending. You can also send us yours and we'll be able to read through your text messages. We only have a few minutes to go. Would you want to respond to any of the concerns, or maybe I'll go to Honorable Imanga? How can you, honorable members of parliament, engage the local people at constituency level to be involved in issues to do with climate change in response to goal number 13?
Yeah, your question posent is very important. Now, the first step of engaging the people is being an example yourself before you begin having that conversation. I'll just give a practical example. Like, for example, in Nalolo, we're trying to set up an agriculture training center that will focus only on biodegradable fertilizer. This will be really climate smart and climate friendly agriculture practices. And we've been working with cooperating partners like Green Fluent Foundation. So the people are beginning to realize that, oh, because of the sandy terrain in the constituency, actually the chemical fertilizer is destructive to the environment. So what is happening is that what comes as chemical fertilizer is sold out through Katimamlilo, through whatever. So first of all, by the first engagement begins with knowledge. As a member of parliament, I've taken the interest to be able to learn about these climate issues, and now trying to implement them, and also providing alternatives of income other than deforestation. And this is where the challenge lies, because other than deforestation, we also have logging. Trees like rosewood, which take almost a century to grow. And these are, we have people selling them for 10 kwacha a tree. So these are some of the challenges. But our point of engagement is, first of all, show them the value of keeping these trees. And that you have to engage them through also your councillors, and they must be able to know that if they have unconventional cutting down of trees, it will affect their rain pattern, and if their rain pattern is affected, their yields and harvests will be low. And also making them understand that we must overhaul these grass structures, because Posent, we have fires almost every month, because some of these grass structures should be overhauled, so that if in the communities for the people we can move to pole and mud, but for government infrastructure we completely want to overhaul pole and mud, including schools. Now you'll be surprised, Posent, if you go to my constituency, that you still have schools with pole and mud. So this shows you how issues to do with the environment. So we are talking to the people, explaining to the people. It is not easy, because this is a new conversation. The conversation of climate change is taking center stage only now. It's only been in Lusaka talking about climate. And I would even like to encourage UNDP, sometimes speak with the youth from the rurals, from Itestes, from Mpika, from Nalolo, so that they can be able to be exposed to what the global commitments are. I'll give you an example, Posent. There was this Glasgow declaration to end deforestation by 2030. The question would be, how many members of parliament know about that? And it's not their fault, because these are commitments made by the executive, and sometimes there's this working in silos where the community leaders that must urge the people to stop cutting down trees are not aware that by 2030. So that is why the caucus is there, to bridge the gap, the information gap. And now this information gap, once members of the caucus, because our caucus is almost all the MPs, we've got over 100 members. Once the information gap on climate issues is bridged, you begin to see positive and affirmative action in the constituencies, because the members of parliament will begin engaging from a practical perspective. And also, remember, the other issue is we also have to work with the civil services, particularly the teachers, on passing on climate friendly messages to the pupils. Yeah. So that's how we're doing it.
Let me move to the co-chairperson of the caucus. How is your caucus working to raise public awareness about the importance of climate change?
Yeah, so just like my colleague did mention, I think one of the issues we're doing as a caucus is to encourage our members to be ambassadors. I think that is the whole concept. The concept is a concept of being ambassadors and being champions of climate change. So Madam Speaker has on several occasions encouraged even the members of parliament to go and do tree planting. And also, as members of parliament, we are also being encouraged in our own constituencies to provide oversight, to see to it that the people that are doing devastative activities on our environment will be the ones, like he did mention, in the forefront of discouraging. So it's a concept of championship, it's a concept of being ambassadors, and the whole philosophy behind this caucus is to encourage our members to be active members in being in the forefront of discouraging bad vices on our environment.
As we come to the end of the program, maybe I'll start with Mrs. Zulu there. How can an ordinary Zambian contribute to the realization of SDG 13?
Yeah, at individual level, there's so many small activities that we are able to do. Like we've been discussing, effects of climate change, they don't target a particular section of society. We are feeling them at individual level, and so we know that individually we can actually also take action. There are small activities like the Honorable has just been talking about, issue of tree planting. If it doesn't have to be on a farm, you can plant around your yard, wherever there's a house, plant a tree, and preferably plant trees that can bear fruits so that you see the value. Trees play a very big role in the climate change discourse because of their ability to absorb the excess carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, but they also create a microclimate. You will see that there's a difference where you have a house with no tree, it's so hot, but then the microclimate that comes with tree planting is something that can be appreciated. So those are some of immediate actions that we believe can be undertaken. The other one is about the waste disposal. I think I don't know if it's a cultural thing in us that people dispose of garbage without putting in mind where that waste plastic and other things are going to end up, because we understand that with climate change, waste alone contributes to generation of a greenhouse gas, which is methane. And so the more we are disposing of waste and without minding where it ends, contributes to us putting greenhouse gas in the atmosphere.
We do have a live committee coming up.
Yes.
Honorable Manga, is this goal number 13, climate action, attainable by 2030?
It is attainable. And what we just need to do is have the concerted efforts and call for more stakeholders and mainstream this conversation on climate change. So for me, I'm 100% positive. It is attainable.
All right. So, Honorable Mutenta, as a caucus, is
so
this attainable?
as a caucus, we are also representing the people in our constituencies. So what we strongly feel, in order to achieve this cause, we need to connect climate change to our day-to-day life. We need to connect climate change to our diseases, the diseases that we have every day. We need to connect climate change to the shortage of food. We need to connect climate change to the price of mealie meal. We need to connect climate change to access to equitable health and education services. The moment you create that connection, then everyone is going to participate in this agenda. But what is more important to the development actors, we need to ensure that the governance structures of programs that intends to mitigate climate change, they should be transparent, and there should be involvement of the local people. And lastly, initiatives that incentivizes community members to be good stewards of the environment, they should have very clear community beneficiation models, so that the conversation should not be driven by external donors, external forces. It should be felt that we are fighting for this, we are mitigating this so that we get these benefits.
Well, thank you so much for finding time and being with us on this platform. Ms. Zulu, appreciate for making a second appearance on the SDG and your program.
It's my pleasure.
Honorable Manga, I know we've been talking off camera, you and I, discussing these issues, and I'm humbled that you finally came today. And thank you so much for appearing on the program.
Thank you very much, boss.
All right, Swambo, I know you're passionate.
Thank you.
And the caucus as well, wishing you all the best as you drive this agenda.
Thank
you have it. That's today's presentation of the SDG and your program, and this program is in partnership with the United Nations. My sign language interpreter for today was Chola Kaum, and not forgetting the entire production crew. And you, our viewers and our listeners out there, were saying thank you for your support. We'll be back next week on Wednesday at 8:05 on the SDG and you. My name is Posen Tindovi. Keep listening and watching Parliament.
Her Honor, the Vice President's question time.
Questions for oral answer understanding order number 76.
A matter to be admitted, it has to be of recent occurrence.
Continue watching Parliament TV, a channel dedicated to bring Parliament closer to you.
There were 59,439 registered cashew nut farmers in Western Province.
The situation as it is, I'm incapacitated.
The good people of Petauke, especially Minika 1, where we don't have water.
This is now a serious risk on the people with Estesi. Last week we registered one maternal death.
Within the CDF, we can build palaces for all chiefs in our country.
Minister, when are we going to have money? When are we going to construct hospitals?
Catch us live on DSTV channel 272, OTV channel 28, Topstar channel 5, or visit the National Assembly of Zambia Facebook page. Parliament Television, bringing Parliament closer to you.
Keep watching Parliament Television, a station that brings Parliament closer to you.
My eParliament mobile application. First, download the app on either Play Store or App Store and install. After installation, open the app. Step 1. Register your personal information, that's your names, gender, NRC, and date of birth. Step 2. Add your contact information, your email, phone number, and home address. Step 3. Select your constituency. Step 4. Create your 4-digit PIN. At this point, the system will send an SMS to your mobile number with a one-time passcode. Step 5. Confirm with one-time passcode that was sent to your mobile. Step 6. Sign in using your phone number and the 4-digit PIN. And Step 7. Create your submission and submit. My eParliament, bringing Parliament closer to you.
Her Honor, the Vice President's question time.
Questions for oral answer understanding order number 76.
A matter to be admitted, it has to be of recent occurrence.
Continue watching Parliament TV, a channel dedicated to bring Parliament closer to you.
I'm from the Parliament of India.
Je représente le Parlement français.
I am from Ireland.
From Zimbabwe.
Diputada de México.
Du Canada.
Du Parlement gabonais. I'm a member of the New Zealand Parliament.
Iran. In the Schweiz. In Egypt.
Je suis député du Parlement mauricien.
Of the Republic of Fiji Islands.
De l'Assemblée nationale du Sénégal.
From the Kingdom of Tonga.
Parlementaire du Tchad.
Representing Finnish Parliament.
The Kingdom of Eswatini.
I'm a member of Parliament of Ukraine.
Botswana. Bangladesh.
The Parliament of Uganda.
Suriname.
Je représente Madagascar.
Zambia.
Al Parlamento di Uruguay. South Sudan. Centrafrique.
Sono la vicepresidente della Commissione Esteri della Camera dei Deputati italiana.
We are amongst the most vulnerable when it comes to climate change.
L'impact, il est plutôt à travers le dérèglement climatique.
Serious cyclone issues.
Acidification of the ocean, sea level rising.
ما این سالهای اخیر با یک موضوعی مواجه بودیم به نام گرد و غبار و ریزگرد.
La mer monte chaque année de 2 à 5 cm.
We also have huge issues around car dependency. Ukraine's industry still produced many greenhouse gas emissions.
Con tormentas, lluvias, inundaciones o sequías.
Frost oder auch zu viel Regen, Überschwemmungen.
Le réchauffement est 2 fois plus important que les autres pays de la planète.
We are expecting heat waves, sandstorms.
Le flash flood, comme on dit dans le jargon.
Our farming season has changed.
The winters have become warmer.
La stagione sciistica in alcuni luoghi non esiste più.
5 months without rain in a poor country like South Sudan that is still emerging out of war.
Ça détruit les champs, les plantes. The internal migration is happening rapidly.
Over thousands and thousands of people from Turkana in Kenya and also the Pokot from the Kenyan side are now in Uganda looking for livelihoods and also pasture and water for the animals. The climate change is for real.
Les parlementaires ont pu légiférer sur la question à travers des lois sur l'environnement.
It's up to have 51% carbon reduction by 2030.
Éduquer les gens premièrement à protéger l'environnement.
Instead of using personal vehicles, we all now just get in single buses and go to where we're going.
By using the e-office suite, we have turned everything into virtual. And by doing that, we have turned paperless. And that's one aspect.
México se comprometió en el Acuerdo de París a tener el 36% de las energías limpias para 2026.
At the global level, Fiji was a past president of COP23.
Nous avons une politique pour combattre l'érosion de nos plages.
Devenir complètement carboneutre d'ici 2050.
We also work with NGOs.
Et puis un ensemble d'éléments qui visent à la fois la partie de la gestion durable de l'eau, l'alimentation saine et durable.
We're looking at planting 1 million trees by 2023, which is this year.
Les plastiques sont interdits maintenant au Sénégal.
We have been able to put half the amount of oil heated houses.
You have protected areas and national parks.
When you do a major project, it has to be environmental friendly.
Parliaments play a key role, as parliaments is where the discussion starts.
Solo con una grande pianificazione, una grande volontà si possono evitare gli effetti peggiori del cambiamento climatico e adattarci strada facendo.
We hope that other parliamentarians around the world will take the same approach.
My parliament,
my planet,
our future.
Mon parlement,
ma planète,
notre engagement.
Notre combat.
Mi parlamento, mi planeta,
nuestros hijos.
My parliament, my planet,
our planet.
Our family.
My parliament,
my planet,
our beautiful blue ocean Pacific.
My parliament,
my planet,
notre musée.
My parliament,
ma planète,
our dreams.
Notre engagement,
our life.
Il mio Parlamento,
minun planeettani,
notre devoir,
our environment,
our people,
our diversity. Mon parlement,
my planet,
my parliament,
my planet,
notre devenir.
Kafue constituency has continued to celebrate its 50th anniversary. A number of activities have been lined up to celebrate its existence. Kafue constituency was established in 1973 and has been in existence for 50 years. These are the residents of Kafue constituency who have gathered at the constituency office to learn more about the work of the National Assembly during the open day held on 7th November 2023. The open day made it possible for the constituency to engage their Member of Parliament and Staff Manning Office on various parliamentary issues. And a Kafue Member of Parliament, Mrs. Miriam Tonya, called for delimitation of Kafue constituency as it is vast to manage effectively.
As you may be aware, Kafue constituency is commemorating its 50th anniversary since it was established as a constituency in 1973. And we are celebrating this occasion under the theme 50 years of parliamentary democracy in Kafue. And as far as we are concerned, this is the milestone that deserves recognition and reflection. This constituency is so vast that we need consideration for further delimitation, because our 18 wards is just something too big, for us to manage effectively, and also, ensure that the resources that we are receiving have an impact. And this is when we compare with our other constituencies that have 4 wards, for instance, 6 wards. Neighboring Kabwata has 5, and these are fully developed, urban wards. Now Kafue, its nature is such that part of it is in the urban and the other half is in the rural areas. So our rural areas still suffer from a lot of underdevelopment, that would benefit if we were to be delimited, because it means that we have, an enlarged resource envelope in terms of CDF to share between the two constituencies.
Speaking when he graced the occasion, former Kafue Member of Parliament, Mr. Bob Sichinga, appealed to members of the public to make use of the office by seeking relevant information which can enhance development in the area.
The Member of Parliament's role is to represent the concerns, mavuto, vamene vimaleta kuti vantu vavutike maningi mwamene vamankhara, especially because of poverty in our country. To be the voice, to undertake exactly what my colleague is doing here, public outreach, to reach out to the community.
And speaking at the same event, a 21-year-old sustainable development activist, Ruth Hachivi, urged young people to make use of the constituency office if the area is to develop.
The only advice that I have is that each and everyone here, who is gathered here, please, let's educate a girl child. Because education is just not a tool. Education is a superpower that cannot be taken away, especially from a girl child. Because once you educate a girl child, you just do not educate an individual, but you rather uplift the whole nation. I also want to take this opportunity again to encourage the parents to continue investing in education of their child, especially the girl child. Do not neglect them, because usually we've got these cultural norms which are there, which just says, okay, a girl child is supposed to be in the kitchen and not at school. But trust me, here I am, and I am a living testimony that dreams do come true. Because I have been dreaming to be an MP, and here I am taking over this office, and this is a great opportunity.
This open day was followed by the actual commemoration, which was held at the Kosa Stadium in Kafue constituency. The celebration was preceded by a march past which started from the civic center to the stadium. The march past consisted of different organizations from the constituency carrying placards appreciating the constituency's contribution towards development in the last 50 years. These celebrations were characterized with entertainment from various groups, much to the amusement of the guest of honor, the Lusaka Deputy Acting Permanent Secretary, Mr. Alex Mapushi, and other dignitaries. The guest of honor also took time to inspect different companies from Kafue constituency who showcased their products and services at the stadium as part of the 50th Jubilee celebration. And speaking when he officiated at the event, Mr. Mapushi said government we will continue supporting the constituency by revamping some of the factories and industries which contributed to the development of the constituency.
The collapse of a number of industries is one of the worst experiences Kafue has ever encountered in its history. And we pray and we hope and we shall do it as a New Dawn government. We shall ensure that these industries are revived.
Mr. Mapushi has since held a Kafue constituency's contribution towards the democracy for 50 years.
This anniversary is being commemorated under the theme 50 years of parliamentary democracy in Kafue. This event is not just about reflecting on the past 50 years, but also the present and redefining the future that we as a community want for the next 50 years. Let us work together to overcome the challenges we face and create a brighter future for our children. Let us remember that our collective efforts will determine our constituency's prosperity in the years to come.
And speaking earlier, Kafue Member of Parliament, Mrs. Miriam Chonya, paid tribute to her predecessors who served at the constituency since its establishment in 1973.
This constituency has been home to a diverse and lively community for the last 50 years and beyond. Many things have changed throughout the years, but one thing has stayed constant: our dedication to creating a better future for ourselves, our families, and our communities. The purpose for commemorating our Golden Jubilee is simply to appreciate our history as a community in Kafue. It has been an occasion to honor and acknowledge the contributions made by men and women who have served this constituency before. And this includes the former members of parliament, former civic leaders, and other prominent residents who dedicated their time and energy to providing their honorable service to Kafue and shape it into what it is today.
In giving a vote of thanks, former Kafue District Council Chairperson Mrs. Catherine Chapeshamano thanked the organizing committee for organizing a number of activities to celebrate the existence of the constituency for 50 years now.
I want to convey our sincere appreciation on behalf of our Member of Parliament for having accepted to come and grace this occasion this afternoon to celebrate with the people of Kafue the 50th anniversary of Kafue constituency. As the Honorable explained, she came up with the idea that we celebrate 50 years. That is a milestone that we have achieved as Kafue, and she thought we could celebrate this day with the members of the community so that we come together as members of one family. Thank you to all Kafue residents for having turned up to celebrate and commemorate these activities. Your support is most appreciated. Thank you very much.
Members of the public are therefore encouraged to visit their constituency offices to access more information on the role of a Member of Parliament and many other related parliamentary issues.
50 years of parliamentary democracy in Kafue. Today we flag off the March past as we celebrate the Golden Jubilee for Kafue constituency.
Advancing the health of adolescents, particularly their sexual and reproductive health, including HIV prevention and care, is an important aspect of one's well-being. It is for this reason that the National Assembly of Zambia, through the Sexual Reproductive Health Rights Caucus, continues to pursue such issues. Speaking at the launch of the Advocacy Strategy for Members of Parliament 2023 to 2027, Advancing Life Skills and Health Education and Sexual Reproductive Health Rights in Zambia, held at Parliament buildings in Lusaka, Speaker of the National Assembly of Zambia, Right Honorable Madam Nelly Moti, MP, FAPRA, expressed gratitude to the parliamentarians for having championed the advocacy strategy.
Parliamentarians affirmed their commitment to end these vices through a communique and recognized that comprehensive sexual education, now known as the life skills and health education, was an integral part of the provision of the reproductive health services for women and adolescents and safeguarding the health of their children and the societies at large. Honorable members, I am happy to see that you have gone ahead to mobilize yourselves and put in place a self-driven advocate strategy that will galvanize your efforts on matters of sexual reproductive health and rights of national and constituency levels. This will go a long way in ensuring that you play your constitutional functions effectively for the delivery of the life skills and health education framework and for the protection of the rights of the adolescent girls and boys. And here I'm glad that the boy child is also added, because there has been a tendency for us to concentrate more on the girl child. The boy child also needs the help. And well done, honorable members, for that. Honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, I recognize that the advocate strategy resonates with the regional and international policy frameworks, processes and commitments that Zambia has made to promote and protect the rights of adolescent girls or young women and achieving universal access to quality education. These include the new Global AIDS Strategy 2021 to 2026, the United Nations Political Declaration for Ending Inequalities, Ending AIDS by 2030, and the SADC SRHR Strategy 2019 to 2030. It is, therefore, timely that the strategy is adopted when the country is embarking on implementing the 8th National Development Plan, which is key to the attainment of the aspirations of Vision 2030.
The launch attracted participation from various stakeholders as well as school children from selected schools in Lusaka. In a speech read on behalf of the United Nations Resident Coordinator, Ms. Beatrice Mutali, UNESCO Program Officer, Ms. Alice Saile, reiterated the UN's commitment to supporting the advocacy strategy.
On behalf of the UN system, this is something that is very pleasing to us that we've supported this process, because we know that this will underscore the commitment that the National Assembly and indeed the government has in ensuring that young people are provided with knowledge, with skills, and also supported to ensure that they're able to complete their education and they're able to reach their full potential, attain their goals, and also maybe serve as members of parliament in future, and also contribute to the national development. Through the UN cooperation framework that speaks directly to how the UN system in Zambia will support the development agenda for Zambia, but also directly support the implementation of the 8th National Development Plan, the UN in Zambia has supported the government to implement policies and strategies that are very critical in the area of ensuring that the well-being of young people is addressed. These include the National Health Strategy, the Ministry of Health National Adolescent Health Strategy, the Child Code Act, the Life Skills and Health Education Framework, the Education Sector Policy, and many other policies that we're still supporting that are in the process of being developed. And that is why, Madam Speaker and members of Parliament in this room today, the strategy that is being launched today is so important, because this is a tool that the UN system and other partners are going to use to support your work within your constituencies and beyond as you try and address the health, education needs, and mental health well-being of the young people that you serve in your constituencies. And this will actually speak into the broader national agenda, because the strategy speaks directly to the attainment of SDG number 3 on good health and well-being, SDG number 4 on education, and SDG number 5 on gender equality.
Earlier, Deputy Clerk Corporate Affairs of the National Assembly of Zambia, Mr. Stephen Kawimbe, highlighted the importance of caucuses at the National Assembly of Zambia.
As you are aware, caucuses are voluntary and informal mechanisms that are established to provide a platform for parliamentarians to promulgate and promote identified common interests in their parliamentary work. Although informal, these platforms benefit parliamentarians immensely as they allow them to collaborate and effectively acquaint themselves on critical current policy issues and other areas of interest that require members' attention. Further, this equips members with information